You are now listening to the Purpose Pod, hosted by Alan Levi Simmons. This podcast is a platform to give listeners an inside perspective on purpose, business, and life experiences. If you're interested in finding purpose or discovering paths that could lead you into your purposeful life, this is the podcast for you. Thank you for tuning in. It's time for the Purpose Pod.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages across the world, across the galaxies. What's up, all my beautiful people? It is Tuesday, and you know what time it is? It's time for the Purpose Pod. And today, I have a special guest with me, Mr. John Dale. I'm so excited because I haven't seen him, like you said, what was it, April 2017? So it's been a long time. And I'm just excited because he is one of the reasons why my life took a pivot. It took a good pivot too. It was a good 45-degree angle turn, good military turn. So I'm gonna bring on Mr. John Dale right now. Let's welcome him on. John Dale. Woo!
Hey everybody. Hey.
What's going on?
Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. So it's exciting to have you on the Purpose Pod so you can have this experience. You allowed me on your stage during REBOOT. So now this is here. This is the gift exchange, brother.
Sweet. Sweet.
Awesome. So everybody, John is an Army veteran, and I cut him some slack because these veterans out here aren't like Marine Corps veteran, so we're gonna leave people out there and let them live. We're gonna let them live, and
sure.
But we're not gonna hold that on them. But thank you for your service, and thank you for starting REBOOT or just taking on REBOOT, because you volunteered, you started off volunteering. We're going to get into that, but overall, how are you today? Let's ask you that. How are you today?
Yeah, man. I've never been filled with this much joy and peace in my life. My marriage has never been this healthy. I mean, we're finally at a place where we're ready to hopefully have a child here soon. And I couldn't have said that a few years ago. So it's just a testament to what God has done through REBOOT Recovery, which hopefully we're going to talk about a little bit more soon. So definitely. And I'm glad you started off like that. I'm glad you started off with some hard, cold truth that is sometimes marriage is tough, and usually when you have a person who's had traumatic experiences, it could be a little tougher. No
so I'm thankful that you guys have made it this far, and I congratulate you guys on your success in your marriage. So
thanks, man.
Has COVID thrown anything off for you, or has it been business as usual?
No, it's been the same for me. I mean, I've been working from home remotely now for about 5 years. So COVID really didn't do a whole lot for me. I'm still here. For a while, I was taking trips back and forth to Nashville from Atlanta because our headquarters is there. And of course, I haven't gone back there since like March, but that's really been the only thing that's been changed. So
okay, cool. So I know a lot of people have jumped on because they're ready to talk about trauma, and I was getting a lot of traction about this interview because this is a very heavy topic, and a lot of people in this country are suffering from trauma. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you. And first and foremost, I want to go in and talk about REBOOT. When I met REBOOT, it was REBOOT Combat Recovery for me, but there's an overall REBOOT. Can you go ahead and just tell the people what REBOOT is about, and maybe it could be for them or maybe for someone that they know?
Sure. So REBOOT Recovery started back in 2011. And at that point, our focus was just on veterans. And over time, there's just been this need of other groups that have jumped on board. And And so, yeah, our focus though is to help people overcome trauma through faith-based programs. I mean, simple, right? And if you can see the shirt, overcome together. I mean, that's our tagline.
Right.
And the way that we do that is through these peer-led trauma healing courses that meet in local communities. And so we've been helping veterans for a few years now. And then we started having first responders that would start showing up to the veteran courses and be like, hey guys, first responders need some help too. And so in 2018, we developed a program just for first responders. And so currently we have a program for each. But some really awesome news is that we've taken all of our lessons learned and the outcomes data from both of those two, and we've created a general trauma course. So it's a course for the general public. So if you've experienced trauma from any source, this would be a course that would be helpful. And we're launching that in December, which I'm super excited about. So
I'm excited for you. I'm excited about it too. That means that a lot of people are going to have the opportunity to leave trauma, right?
Yeah.
To leave trauma, you know, because I feel like trauma is a place. It has a location, you know, and when you don't live there anymore, you know that you're free.
That's spot on.
And so you mentioned the first responders, and I know that you were once a first responder as well, right?
Yeah. So I actually served in the Army National Guard for 8 years, doing a couple deployments both stateside and overseas. The last one was to Iraq in 2005. And I also worked in fire and EMS in my county for a couple years there too, while I was finishing up college. And so I've been in both, and both impacted me. And so anyway, I ended up getting hurt on that deployment to Iraq, and later was medically discharged. And that's when things started to unravel for me.
Wow. So thank you for you doubled your service, like you did the military, and then you went and served in your community. So I think the background that we have right here is perfect for you, for one, because you sacrificed a lot of your time and your life. So just kudos to you, sir. Thank you very much for your service.
You're welcome.
And so what are some traumas that, you know, there are different traumas that first responders and combat veterans or combat service members go through, right? They're different traumas, correct? Or is it the same?
Yeah. They are different. And for someone in the military, for example, you know, you go on a deployment and you might experience things, and then you come back home and you're at home for a while, right? So those are a little more acute. You know, they happen a few times and then there's a break. But some of our first responders, you know, experience traumatic incidents, you know, on a weekly, sometimes daily basis. You know, every time they go out on shift, they might experience something. So it's different. But we have seen that the way that trauma impacts us is very similar. And that's why our two programs use the same topics. And it's looking at trauma from what it does to our soul. So like there's lots of stuff out there that deal with like the mind and the body, but our focus is on the soul and what God can do to heal that soul wound. And there we go.
That soul wound. That's a very good explanation. And Tara, she asked, we had a question of what does the course cover? It's not pulling up. But you just pretty much answered it, which is addressing that soul wound. And I'm glad you said it like that, because, you know, having gone through the course myself and help, you know, leading the course as well with Matt Thomas, I believe that a lot of people, you know, they pay attention to the spirit, or they pay attention to like the physical wounds, you know, the physical effects and maybe even just the mental effects. But the soul wound, or the soul is part of the mind. Like, what would you classify as the soul wound?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I would say that it's definitely part of the whole human body. But I would say that there's some components of the soul that may not get addressed. Like if you go to mental health, for example, they may not tackle some of these things. Specifically, like, where was God when all this crazy stuff happened that I experienced? Why do I feel so far away from him? Like, why didn't he show up? Why isn't he healing, this stuff? Why am I suffering? Right. So that's kind of part of it. But then also some of the topics that we cover in the course are things like grief and guilt, both false and real guilt. Why forgiveness is important. And then this topic of identity, which is probably one of the ones that I struggled with the most. I mean, gosh, my identity was so wrapped up in being a soldier and a first responder. And when I couldn't wear the uniform anymore and I had to put it in a Foot Locker in my basement, like, dude, that crushed me. Like, I didn't know what way was up after that. And so those are some of the things that we tackle in the course. And I mean, it's one of those things where we just put tools in front of people and we walk with them through their healing journey, but really God does all the really hard work. And so that makes it easier on us, right? As leaders,
right. Yeah. You're right. And the course is awesome because, you have people growing together and going through it together and figuring things out together. And like your shirt says, we're in this together, so or we overcome together, and I believe that is so important for people to understand, even if they're interested in going into Reboot, is that if you're not a team player, like, you're not willing to lay down your pride and, also we talk about humility, in the course as well. So a lot of times humility prevents people from getting healed. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. And it's that part about humility is a cultural block. We go through basic training and we're taught to, suck it up. Don't complain about, what you're going through. But what's crazy to me is that, like, we're expected to, go outside the wire, do these hard missions. Maybe as a first responder, you're expected to go out on shift, and you're normally working with a team, right? But for some reason, it's not okay for us to share with other people when we're struggling. Like, it's totally fine to go out and do the job and to, help people and accomplish the mission. But if you're struggling, like, it's not cool to speak up and ask for help. In fact, it's looked down upon. It's seen as a sign of weakness. And that's a barrier from us getting the help we need when we don't see it as a sign of strength to speak up and ask for help. So
and with you saying that, I was thinking earlier about our process of joining the military, and then we do our deployments, and then we get out, and then everybody's worried about we're worried about our mind and maybe the trauma after we get out. And a lot of people don't even have time to process it, when they're getting out. So for the people that are in right now, like, they're still in, maybe they're still first responders, maybe they're still in the military. How can they address their trauma when, everybody's not open to, talking about those issues?
Yeah. And that's what's awesome about these Reboot groups that meet all over the country, is that they're not connected to the VA or the DOD or even to, like, a local department. They usually meet in a local church or in somebody's house. It's totally confidential. Like, we don't even require you to bring a DD-214 or your badge or anything.
Right.
You just, like, if you're hurting, then we want you there. I mean, that's it. And so it's a safe environment to unpack that stuff and to let God get in there and heal. I mean, and and you don't have to wait until you're out of the military or you're not a first responder anymore. Like we need to be healing from that stuff as we go. Like if you're waiting till you're done with that, like it's too, like I'll take a step back. It's not too late. It's just like, it's going to be so much harder if you're not being proactive with it. I guess that's a better way to say it.
Yeah. I mean, if you wait, it might get you, like it might
that's
finish
right.
you off.
Yeah, true. But at the same time, like we've had Vietnam veterans that have gone through courses that I've led, that these guys have like packed this stuff away for 50 some years and have not told anybody about it.
Yeah.
And it one that breaks my heart that us as a society, like it's taken us this long for it to even be a little bit okay for folks to speak up and say that they need help, and that they've just been carrying this around in their rucksack for years. And just to see the scales fall off these folks, like when we get to the week about forgiveness, week 6 is a turning point for a lot of folks, because they might have been carrying around false guilt, like their buddy died and they didn't, and gosh, I could have done more, right? And they've carried that around for years, and for them to be able to let that go is huge. Like you can sit there in the room, and I mean you've gone through the course. I mean you've seen that happen with people, man. It's so awesome. I love it.
It's true. Like, and when you say the scales are falling off, literally people like, the dead weight that we carry is like these scales, and they just fall off when you're able to, address that false guilt, and I wanted to talk about that because there may not be people out here who are in the service, or maybe they've never even experienced combat, but maybe they were like me when I was 12. I saw my friend get hit by a car right in front of me, and I had that false guilt of like, what if I could have saved him? What if I was a little faster? So people have been in situations like that, and they carry that weight for 30 years, 20 years. How do you know when that weight is actually affecting your life? Like, what are the signs or the symptoms of trauma that you've been in a traumatic experience?
Yeah, they can manifest itself in a few different ways. Anger is one, bitterness. If we're self-medicating with things, I mean, gosh, I used alcohol and porn for years to try to, fix my wounds. And, so there's, and isolation is another one. I mean, there's a whole long list, but I mean, the thing about false guilt though is it's based on a lie. But man, that is so hard to see, because false guilt looks a whole lot like real guilt. It sounds and smells and tastes like real guilt, and it's not until either things are going like really wrong for you, or you have somebody that you've given permission to walk with you and speak into your life and say, hey dude, I don't think you actually did anything wrong there. I really think that's false guilt. Like, are you ready to let that go? And that's actually one of the topics in the course. And we go through an exercise where we look at the difference between real and false guilt and how to deal with each of those.
I got that right here in my handy dandy. You see my picture. Nice. Don't look at my pictures on there.
Okay.
What are you doing in class, Alan? But you were saying the false guilt, and I really wanted to touch on this.
Sure.
So like there was the example of survival's guilt, and it says I shouldn't have survived when others died, right? There's other examples under that. If I'd suffered more, others would have suffered less. And then that's the false guilt, right?
Right.
And then we have the survivor's guilt with the truth. You can't blame yourself because you lived while others died. You had nothing to do with that. There's no way you could have controlled all the conditions surrounding your traumatic events. The conclusions drawn are illogical and inaccurate. So inaccurate. So that's deep.
Right. But gosh, it's so hard though. Like when we're in that position of feeling that false guilt, like it's so hard for us to see what's actually true. Even though what you just read is true. Like there was probably absolutely nothing that you could have done to, keep your friend from being killed. Right. But for some reason we want to take that on as weight. And at the end of the day, y'all, it doesn't serve anybody. All it does is keep us from living our full life when we make the choice to hang on to that stuff.
Wow. Yeah. So that was awesome. You said it keeps us from living a full life, right?
Yeah.
The life that we deserve to live, the life that we should want to live, it keeps us from living that. And what do people usually go into hiding? I know you talked about isolation, right? People go into hiding, they isolate themselves. So someone could be watching right now and COVID has them isolated. They were already depressed maybe. What kind of words would you tell someone? Like, think about you being in that moment in time. We did not practice this, folks. So think about you being in this, in the space that you were in before. Right. And what would you have wanted someone to tell you right then and there, in your trauma?
Yeah, gosh. Well, and something that's a tough thing for me to say and for folks to hear, I think, is that oftentimes it has to get so bad and the wheels have to almost completely come off the car for us to want to do anything about it. So even if I go back to when things were like really dark for me and somebody would have come to me with some truth, like, I don't know if I could have even heard them in that moment. Like, cause there's this thing I learned at a marriage retreat a few years back about this thing called the mirror concept. And really at the end of the day, like, the only people that we can change is the one that's in the mirror. And so we've got family members and friends that have, tried to intervene, tried to get us to, go to AA or, quit this job that's sucking your soul, or like whatever it is. Right. But we have got to get to the point until we're hungry, till we're ready. And then we would be open to somebody coming to us and saying, dude, you need to go to this reboot course with me. Like, I can see that things are really bad for you. Like, come and sit with me. I will go with you. Right.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's tough to get somebody help when they're not ready. And that sucks for being on the outside. If you're a spouse or a sibling, a parent. So yeah. I mean, it was tough for my wife, man. She tried for years to get help for me, and it just, I just would continue to do damage to our relationship, and ended up creating this environment of fear that, we both struggled with suicide at different times. We were separated. We were filing for divorce. I mean, and it really wasn't until then that I was ready to really take things seriously, and Reboot showed up just around that time. So,
yeah. Wow. And I thank you for transparency. People need vulnerability in order to heal fully,
that's right.
And a lot of people think that they are struggling on their own. And, you hit on, something big there when it comes to like marriage. And like me, I know, like, as being a veteran, and, how, we've been conditioned to want things to be like, fast pace. Hey, move, let's go. Right. And, and I could see myself turning into that person sometimes. And I feel bad for my wife. And I'm like, oh man, like sometimes I just sit outside and be like, calm down, Marine, like just chill out. You're done. Like your time is done, So how did you switch? How did you balance? How did you find that balance,
Yeah, I think it was just taking a few steps at a time, and it's really been a journey for me. It wasn't like one day that I woke up and I felt magically better. I mean, it was just like getting down into the valley, and I got down in there and I pitched my tent and stayed there for way too long. And then I decided I was ready to come out. And so that was kind of my, trajectory out of there. There was one other thing that I think is good for folks to hear when it comes to being ready to make these changes and to do this hard work in our healing journey. There's this sentence that I learned at this retreat as well, called the lie of try, and it says the try is a lie we tell others and ourselves to disguise our cowardice when we have no intention of fulfilling a commitment. Man, yeah,
that's real. That is very true.
Yeah,
that is so true.
How often have we said, like, okay, baby, I'm gonna try. I'll try not to, drink as much next time. Okay, I'll try to go to the counselor. And oftentimes for me, it was just to get her to shut up and leave me alone. Like, I was just tired of hearing her, right? And I wasn't taking it seriously because I was scared. I had no actual intention of fulfilling the commitment to make any positive change in my life. And so, don't get stuck there, y'all. I mean, we've got to take some ownership of our own healing. And one great way to do that is to get in on a reboot course.
Reboot in December.
Yeah. There you go.
You said take ownership, even though you didn't cause yourself the trauma. Still, that trauma now is in your possession, and you have to own it. Don't let it own you. And when I say that, John, I think about, the time when I was going through my PTSD, and it was really bad, and a lot of people didn't even know it was that bad. It was just, I knew what was going on in my mind, and like you said, the wheels have to be coming off. Right. So when I got to the point where I had the gun in my mouth, I was literally like, the wheels was all off. I was just going based on the acceleration that I already had while I was moving. So the wheels have completely fall off of this wagon, and I'm losing it. And, so before then, if someone was to tell me like, hey, Alan, like my friends would tell me, hey, Alan, you're starting to hang around people. You're doing this, you're doing that. Like, that's not who you are. And I was like, shut up. No, it's not. That's who that's who I am. Who are you to tell me I'm a grown man? Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I know that we could prevent ourselves from being fully healed and free because we may need to humble ourselves before the wheels fully fall off. But so there's different levels of trauma. There's the trauma right when it happens and you really don't even know what you just got into, that kind of trauma. And then there's the trauma that, hey, it's been maybe 2 years or a year or 3 years since the event. And, it wasn't, a problem at a certain point. Maybe it didn't even bother them, but then something else happened, and I think these are the fruits of things like our anxiety, like we talk about in a reboot. It was you have the visible fruits, right? Or the physical fruits. And then you had the more spiritual fruits, like under the roots, right? So if you guys can imagine a tree, and I'm gonna do a tree. So this is my tree.
That's an awesome tree, man. I love it.
so here's the roots down here, and then here's the fruits up here. So a lot of times, when we're going through that, let's say depression, and we have the anxiety, those are the top things that we see, right? How do we find out? I know we do it in please guys sign up for this course because you would do it in the course. But like for people that are, maybe they want to know, like, how can I find out what the roots are right now and that I can start addressing some of these roots in my life that are causing the fruits in my life?
Yeah, you're spot on there. And that's why we take a little bit different approach in these courses that you may go to. And I'm not saying that mental health or any of these other treatments don't work. What I'm saying is they often go after the symptoms. So they're seeing the physical fruits that are in your tree, and they're saying, okay, you've got depression. Well, let me give you a pill for that, which is helpful. I did that for a little while, but our approach is a little bit different. Is that, yes, we see that there's a fruit on this tree that may be unhealthy, but we want to find the root and we want to heal that. Because if you have a healthy root, you're going to have healthy fruit on your tree. And so these roots that may have been damaged when you've experienced trauma are things that have to do with guilt and grief and forgiveness and identity, right? Those are the topics that we tackle in each week of the course.
Yeah.
Because we're, even if you get through the whole course, and so we tell our folks at the very start, you may still have some symptoms after going through this course, but you are going to be able to find joy and peace and live your life in spite of that. And that was true for me. Like I still have chronic pain. Like going through the reboot course didn't take away my physical pain. But gosh, I have joy and peace now in spite of that. And that stuff may never go away. So, but what we have been able to see, which is pretty great, is we have been able to measure from a medical outcome standpoint. When somebody gets to week 3 in the course, we have them take a survey, and then we have them take it at the end on week 12, and we can measure the results, and we can actually see a physical improvement. So we can see some of those symptoms that go down, but we're not intentionally attacking the symptoms. We're going after the damaged roots.
Come on.
And that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible and powerful. Like,
yeah,
we got some, so that's so real. And I love that example of the fruit, the roots and the fruits, because people can really see, like, okay, maybe my tree, I think I'm a bad tree, but maybe I just have damaged roots. Maybe there was something in my life that damaged me. So that's so real. And we're getting a lot of love right here, because that was you're like a poet. You're the trauma poet. The trauma poet.
I didn't even know it. Okay.
Yeah. So we talk about those roots, right? And so what are some of the I guess the barriers or the internal struggles that people go through when it comes to addressing the roots? Like, okay, if we talked about humility, we talked about unforgiveness a little bit, but it's in the course, guys. Unforgiveness and humility are 2 big parts. But when people don't want to recognize, I have anger issues, or I have anxiety, I have whatever it is that the label is, like, and people told them, like, hey, you have anxiety, hey, you have anger, and they say no. What's the best way to, like, let's say for the spouse, for the wife or the husband, to get to their spouse? What's the best way to get to them?
Like if a family or friend sees that going on and somebody they love, and they need to know how to help them with it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think something that's good to know is, like, whatever emotion that we're feeling is probably, like, there's probably much more going on under the surface. Like, say your wife says something to you and it really is upsetting. Probably what she said or did, like, that really, that probably wasn't really the source of your anger. What's the source of your anger? Like, could have been something like in your past that maybe it brought up, or you're still bitter or resentful to that person or that situation. So I think it's helpful to, like, pull that thread and like sit with the tension long enough, and maybe get somebody to help you navigate that, like a friend or family member or a professional even. Or go to a reboot group, right? And there's
exactly,
folks there too. But there's usually something under the surface. Like, it's not always about that thing. It's usually about something else, and it could be connected to one of those roots. Like, like forgiveness, for example. We may have become bitter and resentful and angry because because we refuse to forgive ourselves or someone else. And we're under the misconception that, like, I'm gonna hang on to this unforgiveness because I think it's gonna hurt the other person. But in reality, that person doesn't care. They probably already moved on, or they may not even know you're pissed off at them.
Right.
Like, and so it's this thing, like, I'm gonna drink this poison and think it's gonna, hurt the other person, and all it's doing is hurting us, and it's not allowing us to be free.
Yeah.
Like, cause that junk gets heavy, man. And we've got to let it go, or it's just going to bury us.
Right.
So,
man.
yeah.
Come on, John. You can keep talking. You don't have to stop talking for me. You can keep on talking, brother, because you're talking some truth right now, brother.
Okay.
That is so real. And I think you're getting people excited about Reboot. A lot of people with trauma may be having some hope right now. And if you have trauma in your life and you have a little bit of hope right now, please make sure you do this Reboot in December. It will be worth your time. I promise you. And I have the website right here, rebootrecovery.com. And you have Mr. John Dell right here that y'all can reach out to. So we can make sure I can connect you guys with him. If you ever need to connect with him, I got you. Okay. So man, this is awesome. And I know we have questions out there. I see the questions. I'm going to get to them, guys. I got you. But I want to make sure that we do this the right way.
Sure.
All right. So I have this written down, Rambo must die, right?
Oh yeah. From the book.
It says Rambo must die. And when I think about that, I'm like, man, we all have that Rambo inside of us that think, I can save myself. I don't need anybody. I don't need you. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I can do this on my own. Right. We get to that place and we're rejecting people because we have this Rambo mentality. How can people help themselves by letting Rambo die?
Well, that's a really good one, man. I think for me, it took me trying to fix this stuff on my own enough times and seeing it not work. Then I finally was like, okay, John, you're continuing to do the same thing over and over again. It ain't working. Like, let's try something different, or else, you're not going to be married anymore, or else you're going to kill yourself. Right. I mean, that's kind of where I had gotten to. I was out of options. I had to try something different. And it wasn't until I brought other men alongside of me, gave them permission to, walk with me and to hold me accountable, or to get into Reboot and tackle these tough things with other people who had shared experiences. Like, that's when the healing started to happen. So there's this really nice combination of us as an individual taking ownership of our own healing and asking someone else to walk beside us while we're doing it. And that's really how we can, and then God just jumps in that mix. And that seems to be like a formula that we've seen work time and time again, because I mean, you have to take that step to register for a Reboot course. You have to say, okay, I've tried these other things in the past. They haven't worked. I'm going to give this crazy idea of healing a soul wound thing a shot because it may work. And so you register for a course and you show up in the room, and there's other people who may look like you or don't look like you, but you've all got a shared similar experience, that you may have served in the military, or you were a first responder, or there was something traumatic that happened in your life that has affected it, and you're there to get healing. And so walking with somebody through that is just a beautiful thing, and it really does work. Yeah.
And it is a beautiful thing, and like you said, that formula is beautiful. And I've seen people who like, maybe when they first started, they were like, oh, I don't believe in this God stuff, I don't believe in this cold Christianity thing, like, but I'm going to try this out. One, because somebody made me, or two, maybe because somebody made them do it, right? But I think the amazing thing was seeing these people go through this 12-week course, never having gone to like a Bible study, never having like had any interaction with God. And they're trusting these people that they're able to walk with. And I would rather, like, people would rather walk with someone who will be there with them, that maybe they're praying with them the whole time, but at least they're walking with them, versus someone that's telling them you're going to die. Yeah. Those thoughts in your head are right. You're terrible. You should have died 2 years ago, all of that stuff, and I think that's the part about Reboot that I love, is that you connect, like you said, with this room with different, and when I went, it was different people in there,
Sure.
And we were still able to connect through our trauma, and there were people in there who never experienced a very traumatic experience that was learning how to be there for people who have experienced trauma. So this gets me to this point is, so do they have to be the person that has experienced trauma, or could they join the course to understand what people who have suffered from traumatic experiences go through?
Yeah, I would say that if you're, so the course is for veterans and first responders and their family. So because we know that trauma impacts the whole family. So if you're a family member, a spouse, a parent, sibling, we encourage you to go through the course. If you're someone that just wants to understand and learn more about trauma, that may not be the best place. I mean, because there's something that's an ingredient to the course going well, that you're in the same room with other people who have shared experiences. Like, you don't want it to be something like, I'm going to go to the zoo and look at the animals. Like, I'm not saying that that's what it audience is. would do that, but we that's really not what we want. We want to create a safe environment, and the folks that are there, are there for healing. And that's one of the reasons why we are launching this new trauma course for everybody. I mean, because we've had folks that have experienced other types of trauma, like from childhood or sexual abuse or things of that nature, that aren't in the military and that are not a first responder, and they have wanted to come to our course, and it's not always the best fit. And so this new course is going to be for everybody. And if we're honest with ourselves, I think there was probably a moment somewhere in our lives where we experienced some sort of trauma, and maybe it hasn't been very long lasting. Maybe it hasn't impacted us. But this course would be helpful for anyone. So, yeah. And so
is there such thing as a? Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just going to add one more thing about the faith part. That more often than not, our faith is really challenged when we experience trauma, and so it is not uncommon for folks to come into a reboot course with these big questions of like, well, where was God when this was happening? Like, why didn't He show up? And even for them to step inside of a church is not oftentimes a safe place. But there's something that happens within a reboot group that these questions can get asked, and we oftentimes don't have answers for all of them, and that's okay. So anyway, I just want to add that too. So
no, that's good. Because no one is shunned from reboot. Like, if you don't follow a certain practice or anything, but you want,
correct.
The whole point is to be open and to go give this a try, because you have a soul wound, and this is addressing that soul wound. And you wouldn't go to a mechanic to for a soul wound problem. I mean, I don't know, unless the mechanic is Jesus. I'm just playing. So, but so I wanted to ask you, like, a lot of people bury trauma and they think that they've overcome the trauma because they buried it, and maybe they experienced the trauma and they say, what, that doesn't bother me anymore, because I've buried it, but at the end of the day, you could still see maybe they're a little snappy, they're angry, they're a little aggressive. And a lot of it, like you said, if you go down to the roots, it is from a traumatic experience, what, like, I guess, like, would you just encourage, I just want to encourage people to actually pay attention to their trauma, because a lot of us bury the trauma and never acknowledge the trauma. So could you give some guidance into how to acknowledge your trauma, where you are? I don't, I thought you were breaking up. You good?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you were right that a lot of us will stuff that down, put it in the box, put it in the closet, just pretend it's not there. And what happens more often than not is you do that enough times and the door won't shut anymore, and that stuff, falls out into the room, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like don't stuff it down, don't pack it away, because eventually it is going to impact your life, and if you're around other people, it's going to impact them as well. So this is something that is important to you and for your family. What we've seen too, and this was true for me, is of like, either I was scared, or I had lost hope, or I had just been so upset at the system that I thought was supposed to help me, get through these things. And I gave up, and I just learned to live with whatever was going on. And I just, and so maybe you're at that point. Maybe you just have learned to live with whatever is going on. And so there may not be much of a motivation for you to make a change. And going back to what I said earlier, like, no one can make you do that. Like, that's a choice that you're going to have to make. Things are going to have to get bad enough for you to do something. Or, as in the case was for me, my wife was almost ready to walk out the door. Like, we were almost done. And that was the motivator for me. Like, I didn't want to live my life without her. And so, but I hope that you don't have to get to that point. Like, be proactive. Don't wait until the wheels have almost completely fallen off to get the help that you need. Like, there's no shame in getting help. There are people out there that want to walk with you. They have been called by God to walk with you. Like, y'all, this is some awesome news. We have over 800 volunteer leaders that at the end of this year would have helped 10,000 people since we started in 2011. Like, that is the impact that God has had through Reboot. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. That's amazing. And people's lives are literally changing. So I love Reboot. I went through it twice, kind of like I went through it twice because I was helping, not that I had so much problems in my life, but I did have a lot of problems that I buried. And, I tried to pretend that my trauma wasn't real, and that, I was just a happy-go-lucky guy. I was always smiling. I was always jokey, but when I was at home by myself, I was super depressed. I was taking the pills that the VA gave me, and I was just really like in a slump. And I think the scariest part for me was when I did not have a reason for why I should live. I could not find a reason for why I should live. And that was a very scary part for me. So this last part is for, those who are at that place right now, where, the trauma has hit them hard, for the last year to 6 months. And today they stumbled upon our video and they're watching, but they're at the point where they want to commit suicide, and, they're at the point where they want to throw in the towel. What should they do? Right now, I know they got the hotline and everything, but as far as just like evaluating things, like, how, what could they do at this moment in time to reflect and to kind of look forward even?
Yeah. So, first off, I would say that there is hope for you. There was a time when I didn't think that. I didn't look this way 5 years ago. I mean, I was a mess, right? And so there is hope for you. The second thing I would say is, as soon as COVID started to kick off in March, we immediately created this crisis edition course. It's a 4-part series, and it's for everyone. But it's got some really solid things that are some, things that you can implement immediately. So you could go to crisis.rebootrecovery.com. It's free. It's a 4-part online self-study series. And it was made specifically to help anyone that's impacted by COVID. But really, it's helpful for anyone that goes through any type of a crisis. And sometimes when we experience crisis, it can be traumatic. So so that's something that you can easily do for free. crisis.rebootrecovery.com. If you're a veteran or a first responder, get in on a reboot course. Yeah,
they definitely should. It's gonna be awesome. And is there a date? Is it just December or is it like, is there a specific date in December?
Yeah, we are shooting for December 10th. That's 10th. That's our goal. So we are busting our rears to get to that point. There's a lot of work that we've got to do this last quarter of the year. But it's a course that our team has been working hard on. We've already kind of beta tested it locally, and it's going to be a game changer. Really is. Yeah.
That's going to be awesome. I have to do a follow up with you to see how things go after the 12 weeks, maybe, and do it like that, because that's awesome, and a lot of people are going to have this opportunity, and I think you're doing it at perfect timing, because of COVID, and a lot of people have lost family members and friends, and they never really got to process their trauma because I've been in my house by myself all the time, so right. It's just it's a real thing, John, and I really do value like everything that you said today, because it was really good.
Thanks.
So
Thanks, man.
I'm gonna go through and look and see if we have any questions. If you guys have questions at this time, please feel free to ask questions and we will get those answered. Please. Thank you so much. So let's see here. Oh, and I have to do a giveaway.
All right.
So the giveaway, I wonder if they were paying attention earlier. Oh, do you guys remember when earlier I said the last time I saw him? What year was it when I saw John the last time? What year was that time? What year was it? If you guys can answer that, you will get a Never Stop, Never Quit, Repeat shirt. How about that? So we have a question here. Do you work with children?
Yeah, we don't. That's an area that we haven't branched out to. I think for us it's been a place that we do see a need. It's just even more complicated to dive into what kids are going through and to try to help them out. Like there's more risk involved and things of that nature. So it's not something that we've jumped into. I'm not saying that we won't, but we haven't yet. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe that'll be something that,
maybe
in the future, maybe one of you guys could do it. One of you guys could start it up for Reboot.
Yeah.
So we got no, you guys are wrong. All wrong. No. Chase. Oh no. Oh yeah, it was 2007. Chase got it right. Chase got it right. Sorry, y'all. It was 2017. Chase has it right. Chase, you already have like 8 Never Stop, Never Quit, Repeat shirts. It's even in your profile picture. Thank you so much. I'm going to get you the other one, Chase. So I got you. All right. So let's see right here. Let me go back. I had a question from Ryan, I believe, Mr. Farmer. Okay. He says, ooh, I like this. Let's get it. It's coming up. 1 second. This should be. Do you see it?
All right, yeah. Yep.
All right. It says, what helped you to cope with the guilt you felt you carried outside of coming to the Lord? Was there some outlets that you gave yourself to, hobbies that you picked up? Good question.
Yeah. So I would say the guilt that I carried was the damage that I had done to my marriage, and for me that was real guilt. That was not false. That actually happened. Those were things that I did wrong. That was damage that I had done, There's a process that we teach in the course, where we step things out, and it involves confession and repentance and making amends for damage that we've done. And so those are some of the things that I did as part of that process that were really helpful for me. I mean, because even just that one about repentance, and I know it's a Christian term, and sometimes when we hear things like that, our brain shuts off, but all that word actually means is to stop and go in a different direction. And for me, that meant that I had to get sober. I had to quit drinking. I had to stop doing these self-destructive behaviors that was making things worse. And so, those were choices that I had to make. And so that was part of the process for me. And Ryan asked some outlets that you gave yourself to. Music has been something that has been healing for me. And I continue to, enjoy listening to it, and have learned to play the guitar and the piano a little bit. And so that's an outlet for me. I like to read, like to hang out with my wife. I love to be outside. So yeah, those are some things.
Yeah. And that's good. You doing the hanging out with the wife. It's important to go ahead and, to seal that relationship and hang out,
That's right.
If me and my wife get in a disagreement and we don't talk to each other past 5 hours or so, we say, are we friends still? It's like, will you be my friend again? And it's like, okay, let's, and you talked about that repentance, and, I think it's big in relationships, especially because, if you can't, repent to each other and then forgive each other, and then let the person heal, heal. Your wife had to be patient with you, while you was going through your transformation phase, right?
Yeah. And then in return, I also had to be patient while she healed from the damage that I had done to her. Like, one of the really hard things, what really destructive things about porn is it's adultery, no matter how you cut it, no matter how you want to look at it. And so, it took us a long time to rebuild that trust within our relationship. And I had to give her room to do that. And I had to intentionally be honest and upfront with her, and so, yeah, that's just something that you got to do. I mean, those instances when we either experience trauma or we hurt or we cause trauma in other people, those can happen in an instant. But oftentimes it takes a long time to recover from things like that. And we just have to accept that and walk it out,
Yeah. And that recover part is so important. Like, I think about somebody stumbling and, it may take you a while to recover and get your balance back, but like, as long as you're trying to get your balance back, as long as you're trying to make an effort, to be a good spouse, to your partner, and be more patient, and be more patient with ourselves as well, because a lot of people give up on themselves in the midst of that transformation, so yeah. All right. I wasn't supposed to elaborate, but I was just trying to just drop it on there. But yeah, so let me see. Let's see here. My computer has been like so slow for me today. It's so terrible. So John, let's see here. She says, do you have any advice for those who participate in REBOOT to stay on the course of healing and journey? Come on, Tara. That's good.
Yeah.
Good question.
That's a great question. What we say toward the end of the course is that REBOOT is an on-ramp to whatever's next in your journey. Like, we don't want REBOOT to be the last thing that you do. And mainly because the topics that we cover in REBOOT are foundational and sometimes a little basic, even though they're super important and they're transformative. There's also way more things that we can tackle next. And so maybe there was something that was uncovered during the course. Like I think about this like a onion, and like for me, the trauma from combat for me was on the surface. And so, yeah, I got some healing from that. And, you know, I pulled the layer, but, oh, there's trauma from childhood down in there. Oh crap. I got to go deal with that now. Right. And so, I mean, dealing with that stuff really didn't bring me joy, because tackling it was really hard and it was uncomfortable, but joy came after I got through all that and got that stuff that was down inside healed. And so if we can look at it as a journey, and that at different points along we're doing things, that's what keeps that joy and peace going. When we get through one thing and we're like, okay, cool, what's next? And then you get to the point where you're just like building this momentum, and you're just hungry time after time. And really what it comes down to is it's growth, like you're growing. And I just, that's how I do life now. Like I want to keep growing. Like, okay, we found something else to tackle. Like, let's deal with it. I don't want any of that crap to hold me back anymore. Like, I want to go live my life. I want to be with my wife. I want us to have a child soon. You know, I'm excited about that stuff. I'm tired of living the past, man. That junk is over. So
you're right. You are so right, man. You are so right. It's like you got to get tired of dealing with it and being in it and be like, yo, I don't want this in my life anymore. And I'm open to do whatever is going to, you know, whatever is good that can get me out of this situation. So this course that we're telling you guys about, December 10th, holy December 10th, you know, this is for the people. So if you have experienced trauma and traumatic experiences, this is for you. So let me see here. So we're about to wrap it up soon, John.
Sure. Let's see here. It's all good. I'm enjoying it.
Awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying it, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. So we have another. Is it a question? Okay. It's also, this was from earlier. She says, it's also so much harder for you lovely men, as you are conditioned not to admit you need help. This program is great. Exactly. And that was when we were talking about, you know, addressing trauma in the military and stuff. Yeah.
And that's a great one too. And I would say it's even more of a challenge for men.
Yeah.
Because we often don't get modeled that emotional vulnerability by other men in our life. Maybe our dad wasn't really, maybe he didn't show emotion. Maybe he didn't cry. Maybe that wasn't okay in your house. You know, we might not have had that modeled. And then we go into the service, or we become a first responder, and that culture doesn't allow for that either. So yeah, men, I think men have got it even harder from that angle. But it's not impossible. And the fruits from your humility, in order to heal, is just like I didn't even know that once I took my armor off, I was going to be able to see the results from that. But man, I used to wear my armor all the time on the deployment in real life, but then still after I got home, like in a figurative sense. But it wasn't until I took that off and let somebody in you know, so anyway, it's a great question.
I'm listening. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Brendan says he agrees with you, John Dale.
Okay, good.
Us young men need, hold on, I'm trying to, my as you see, is kind of fading away as the other one's trying to pop up. So let's give it some time here.
Sure.
But he says, us young men need to know that we have emotions too, because some guys are just sensitive. Yeah, we are. We got emotions, brother. We got emotions.
Yeah.
Brendan, and Brendan is in high school, so you know he's a very intelligent young man. But you know, so Brendan and I'm glad that we're sharing this, and he's able to see this. He's in high school. A lot of high school guys never hear grown men say, "Hey, you know, it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to have your feelings on your sleeve and to share it with someone
Yeah.
that you can trust. It's okay to do that. So,
Right.
let's see. Chase says, I'm good, bro. Pass it to the next person. Chase, I was joking. You can have another shirt. You can have it if you want it. But if you don't want it, I'll give it to she's been on here.
That's funny.
But yeah, so John, this has been awesome. Hello, my mother-in-law. What's up, Ma? How you doing?
Oh, good.
So this has been an awesome interview with you.
Yeah,
and man. I'm sorry, my sister-in-law actually says hello as well. So This has been an awesome interview with you. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people have learned a lot as well. Is there any closing words you want to say for the Purpose Pod listeners out there? And you can also finish by plugging in December 10th, and go ahead.
Yeah, I would just
so
say
closing
that,
words and then December 10th.
Yeah, I would just say that if you're on the fence and you've tried other things that haven't worked, give REBOOT a try. I mean, it's free. You may waste your time going through the course, but I will say that you will probably find some healing there. And there's, like I said earlier, there's at the end of this year, there's going to be 10,000 people that have gone through these courses over the last 9 years. And we have been able to prove from a medical outcome standpoint that healing from soul wounds is an important part of the overall recovery process. So this isn't anecdotal evidence. This is not just telling stories. Like, we have proven this to be effective. So y'all give it a shot. Like, God wants more for you. He wants us to go and live full lives. And you have to make that choice. So
you have to make that choice. I'm just putting this right here so I can put it up. And all right, so and you have to make that choice, like you said. So December 10th, so December 10th, is it locked in, or is it just like, December 10th, maybe?
It's December 10th, maybe.
Okay, I knew you were kind of like, it might be December 10th, but just kind of in that area, people. So December 10th, around December 10th, REBOOT course for everyone. REBOOTrecovery.com. I typed all of that while looking at you and listening to you. Isn't that great?
Yeah, good.
But yeah, John, so I really do appreciate you being here on the Purpose Pod. And I want to congratulate you on your journey and the success that you have had. It is remarkable, and it's awesome because a lot of people don't make it, out of trauma. At the end of the day, a lot of people don't make it out of trauma. So Chase says, thanks, John, for being here.
You're welcome.
No, Parker, you take it. All right, so y'all figure that shirt stuff out later. All right, so John Dell, folks, John Dell, REBOOT Recovery. Please check him out, guys and gals. He is on Facebook, and you could also follow REBOOT Recovery on Facebook. Make sure you go like the page on Facebook. Go like the REBOOT page. Leave a comment about John in there and say John was remarkable. He was awesome. Of course, guys. So, John, thank you so much for being on the Purpose Pod. I will be right with you in a second, okay?
Okay. Thanks, man. See you, everybody.
All right. Thank you. So, folks, that was John Dell on the Purpose Pod. He did a remarkable job. He did a great job. And I hope that those of you who are going through trauma, you take a moment to reflect on what we discussed today and you do something about it. It's on you right now to do something about it. So if you know someone who is suffering from traumatic experiences, maybe they're suffering from themselves, please get them signed up for this REBOOT recovery course that is for everyone. It is for everyone. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this has been an episode of the Purpose Pod where we were discussing trauma and how to use your trauma with a purpose or for a purpose and find purpose in your trauma. Look at me, look at John. We found purpose in our trauma. And a lot of times people want to give up, but we don't want you to give up. You heard John today. So please remember, never give up and make sure you do something about your trauma. This has been another episode of the Purpose Pod, and that was John Dale of Reboot Recovery. Make sure you guys go check them out. Peace.